Hello, and welcome to the Solarpunk Sangha Podclass. Today is October 1st, 2024, and I'm your lead explorer, Ravi Bajanath. Yeah, there we go. So I'm getting used to streaming, but also this encoder called SuperPeer. So if you see any issues, or if I encounter and do any issues, then it's a learning process that we're going to go through. So let me take this off. It's pretty neat on this side to have a little studio to put things on, put things off, put things on, put things off. Great. Okay, so today we're going to talk about orientation. What is orientation? Orientation for the school itself, the product. We're going to do a walkthrough of that. We're going to see a little bit more of how to use the website to your advantage, as well as creating a journal uh, that syncs up to these sessions. So the idea is really we have an educational course. It has pod classes like these live streams that cover the spectrum of topics. And those topics then get melded down into lessons that have written um, research, further information that I can't share on a live stream. And they're a composite of all the material that we have on the subject. So, because it is orientation, we're going to talk about the Sangha, how to use the site, introduction to the explorations, and I'm going to share my screen by hitting this button. So we can start immediately with the website. All right, let's wait. So let's reload. Why reload? Because there's an animation, a timed animation that alternates the color swap and a 360 rotation. It's not necessary to really engage with that, but it's something that represents, of course, the turning of the wheel, which is the Dhammacakka Savatthana Sutta, the first discourse of the Buddha. And I'll sprinkle in those mentions of what things mean symbolically. It's kind of a casual stream, so I'm not going to really go into a PowerPoint presentation on um, on these topics. So let me fix my orientation here. Yeah, sweet. Okay. Um, the main website, solarpunksangha.com, was launched last month, and it's a continuously updating website. Given that this pod class was something that's new, it will be improved upon in how you access uh, this class as well as future classes, which we'll go through in just a second. So you can go through the homepage by itself. It gives an explanation of what we offer as a free online learning platform. We'll cover circle sustainability in just a moment, and all of our media libraries. So in case you haven't seen my updates on Instagram, on whatever social media that I'm posting on, mostly Instagram, you've seen updates of how incremental improvements to the website has been going. So if any of this material is new, it's a super big overview of the previous YouTube videos that I published, TikTok videos, YouTube shorts, and all of that covers the, oh, what's this? And why is it doing that? Okay, we'll fix that later. But why? It's a live stream. Fuck it, let's go. All right, so minor improvements to the websites, including right now, which I could probably do in parallel, but we will continue with going about this, what the Sangha is, not to get too overloaded and distracted, but I will take notes on that site improvement. Okay, so again, the Sangha is all about the education of sustainability and spirituality, and that is done through providing insights, designs, and resources through a systemic design process. First and foremost, that initiative came as a result of my own experience receiving an education um, at UCF online. And to put that process briefly, it was completely remote. Uh, it was the semester of COVID. So we're talking about 2020 or almost 5 years out from the pandemic. So who knows how that affects people's memories. It's like, God, 4 years at least. So in the process of transitioning, I guess you could say, the learning experience going from, let's say, all online, or for some people hybrid, or even in person, that experience really allowed me to evaluate a service map of what a university offers. And in the process of building a website or a learning management system, which is effectively your Blackboard equivalent or Canvas, there's a lot of different apps that major universities use that are, to my point that I'm making, is that they're not really great user experiences. And so when we're talking about user experience, we're talking about how you navigate, how you access something, how uh, much information is provided, where you don't have to go and navigate, away to multiple sources. And I'll briefly touch on those subjects, but to continue with the overall academic approach to education, I do see that there are so many areas of opportunities, even several years out, for remote learning. And now that there are more streaming tools, whether that's Superpair, Zoom, um, name your favorite encoder, those softwares are hitting, the right sort of market for individuals like myself who want to start up a school but don't have necessarily the studio resources to combine all sorts of content publication that you would otherwise show up in person for, or you would get some recorded statement like this in a text field, and that's all the users get to interact with. I never got a chance to do a streaming class while the pandemic was going on. As I said, it was already remote and online learning, so it was already structured. You know what I mean? Like, you go in, do your assignments, plug and chug, and you get a degree. that's that's what we need to really address. So the current technology itself is a learning management system, and as we're going to come back to this page, we'll go straight to the curriculum, and we'll talk through that point further. So what a learning management system is, it combines your courses, your media library, such as the books or archival material that a university might host on a web server. Our research rhizomes, we'll talk about that in a moment. Explorers, which is the equivalent of teachers. Concepts, such as, the things that we were going to talk about, and how pod classes are going to be discussed over. And projects, which we'll briefly talk about creating a journal. More on that maybe in another stream. So with the conversation of having a poor user experience using a learning management system on behalf of major universities, understand that this is a pretty common occurrence where people are just frustrated how to do things through that product. Uh, and the inspiration of redesigning that process allowed the university to become more open. So, in this regard, if you think about it, you would have to sign up, apply, get all the way through the application process, the payment process, the registration process, and it furthers you down into a a very, very controlled experience. So the whole point of the Sangha and this learning management system is to inverse that. Make the courses available, make the registration process more or less the membership program, and allow the technology to conform to the expected experience that I would go to a university and expect to encounter. Because all these items are also in just an improvement of how a student would go through in modern online experience. And if you find anything that's really helpful through this walkthrough that goes, oh, that's a better way of organizing something, how do we learn more about that, know that we'll definitely go through the back end of this learning management system. I'm not sure if I want to do that on this stream today, just given the current events. It's October 1st, 2024. I randomly will not talk about that at the moment. Um, but more or less, this is a walkthrough of the curriculum, keep ourselves eye to eye on what's going on. So the curriculum, of course, as I mentioned, is organized by the concepts of sustainability and spirituality. How we organize that, we'll step into the library first. And how sustainability is presented is through the Circles of Sustainability method by Paul James. He is a researcher, Australian researcher that, with a team, of course, implemented a very robust information architecture. It's something that researchers will use. When I say IA, it's pretty much what a web designer will go and produce the navigation, the taxonomy of how a website is organized and indexed. Well, this research method lends very heavily into the correspondence of what our social lives are all about: politics, economics, culture, and ecology, as well as corresponding research for UN Sustainable Development Goals, which we'll cover in the rhizomes in just a moment. But these domains, politics, economics, culture, and ecology, as well as their subdomains, are very broad and very, I guess you could say, direct interactions that people would normally categorize these, subdomains or topics under. But you also see that there might be some overlap just simply because there's a tendency for some of these items, like consumption and use, and embodiment and sustenance, like meals. Like, where would you put consumption and use for, let's say, agricultural purposes or commercial uses? So there's that slight little nuance that this research method really needs to work and improve upon. And in the process of building out the library, there's 28 subdomains, and as you'll see here, there's going to be 6 topics for each subdomain. So there's a lot of ways of generating content, information, insights, designs, and resources, etc., strictly from how this library slash curriculum is organized. And as you're here in the library, this is also going to be improved upon, but currently there's an Airtable. In case you haven't heard or watched my previous videos, Airtable is like a database meets a spreadsheet, right? So if you're an Excel nerd, that's really exciting because you have the opportunity to link link some of these topics together. So if I were to hit politics, for example, or select one of these, it will automatically fill out these metadata for each item or each piece of literature that is within each subdomain. So it's very refined. And as you can see, these are just reference points. They're not necessarily like advocating for reading Leviathan, although I do recommend reading Leviathan for the sake of the Hobbesian narrative of the state, especially as it was evolving and enclosing the commons. This is kind of the correspondence of what Hobbes was mentioning back in the 17th century. But these are particularly reference points, and they flesh out a very interesting viewpoint of how to view history, especially if it's the publication history of World War One, World War Two, and the products of literatures that came out from that. Definitely take a look at the categories. You can, we'll go into the one that we're in today, inquiry and learning, and check out reference points on what I would, posit as something worth visiting in this topic and in this domain. So as you can see, you could also open this up in a separate tab. I think it opened and it didn't follow the share screen. That's fine. But you can see here, or you can even download 28 CSV files if you want to. All right, so this media library also includes playlists from my personal YouTube account, where I just started restructuring 28 dashboards or playlists inside my personal YouTube, and just said, you know what, this is a great way to just compile as much media as regarding certain topics, and then it just evolved into this hierarchy that we see today. But what you can do as well is go and click on this button, and I believe it opens a new window into the playlist view. But if you were to look at the controls on this video, it will probably allow you to skip ahead to the next video. So you could stay in this page, watch the things that you need to watch, and then, go ahead and learn, do what you got to do. Here on Spotify, and before I continue on Spotify, I'm just going to pop into my YouTube Creator Studio to see. Okay, it's corresponded to the live stream going on. That's awesome. Okay, Spotify. Pure vibes, music recommendations. It's just whatever you want, bro. It's really not supposed to link to specific songs, but there are like fight protest songs from my childhood, songs from your childhood, maybe, I don't know. If your childhood had the Mars Volta, where's Adrian and Eddie, you're you already know. So you can also go and subscribe there if you want. It's up to you. Now, the bookmark section, this is using raindrop.io. It's a really cheap, and I think it's like maybe $48 a year, I think, for this really nice bookmarking app that allows you to not only embed, as you can see here, it allows you to do subcategories where you can add your domain, and you can add your, that's not going to share the screen, but you can add your subdomain there and just continue to filter bookmarks if you were to adapt that. That's going to be another video of how to set that up. I do think it's a wonderful app for the sake of just bookmarking outside of your main, like, let's say Chrome or Firefox web browser. You can pick it up on your phone and use it as a resource for the future. Okay, so book recommendation form. So if you do have anything that you want to send to me, fill it out, submit. It's an Airtable. I get it. I'll check it once a while. I don't know. There's 20, not 20. There's 1,600 books available in these Airtables embedded throughout the library. I do recommend picking a topic that you feel comfortable in. Go through it, and in that way, it's a little bit easier to, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a little bit easier for you to not assimilate, to synthesize. If you assimilate, that's a bad thing. Just lose your identity into the whole sustainability, uh, information architecture, whatever. But the library, it's free, it's available. You can copy it, or the material that's in there. And we'll go back to the curriculum, and we will then cover the educational courses, because I figured I know it's on the, it's not the first thing that we cover, but if was a physical building, like a bookstore or an actual library, think of it as, the explorations are just the classrooms. The library, rhetorical statement, right? So these are just ideas of how to translate digital ideas to physical ideas. The library of how you would organize books on a shelf, or the layout on a floor or floors. So it gives you an idea of how I would like to progress to see this into a physical space. That would be nice. So let's talk about the explorations. These are educational courses. They're simply a way of combining as much actionable information that can be captured and then deliberated, meditated on, and acted on. Because the way that academics, or at least if you were to get a degree, works, you have a very disconnected view of social interaction, whereas you're in an academic bubble, right? That's why they call it the Eiffel Tower. That's why, for the most part, academics or academians are typically sheltered when it comes to that information. The Shiva Sutra, Yaninam Bandhana, knowledge is bondage. Well, how could knowledge be bondage? Well, you could be ignorant of interdimensional, you only get a single point, but there's an entire cube that is existing, and that cube is transform. What we'll talk about in a future Podclass, probably the next one, about Roy Bhaskar. We'll kind of tease the Tesseract as a learning metaphor under critical sustainability, and in this way, you're going to be able to see why the lack of depth and imagination in academia would lead to alternative forms of education and sponsoring such psychology degrees or political science degrees, which is what I have. It's so irrelevant to applying it into our daily lives or even a professional sense, because it's 2024, at the end of 2024 especially. AI, automation, capital being withheld, or not being properly distributed. That's another issue that we'll tackle in the economy. So there's a lot that needs to be covered in regards of why our current education systems are not optimal for the current modern experience, and in that way, this will just proliferate ideas that people can see and adapt to, and maybe reconstruct their own website like this, which is going to be a future project. So I talked briefly about critical sustainability, which is effectively the philosophy that we're going to make a baseline for the Sangha. It covers ontology, epistemology, metaphysics, and axiology. You'll be very familiar with those topics and the connection between East and West approaches to that, preferably from the East, as from, spoiler alert, there's a lot of Western reconciliation regarding philosophy of mind that pretty much validates ideas expressed from Buddhism, Hinduism, um, Taoism, and some Sufi metaphysics as well. That's another interesting topic, but we'll save that for non-duality days. Brief mention. Do I have a set streaming schedule? No. Tomorrow, I will squeeze one in, probably around 2 o'clock Eastern. Start a little bit earlier because this is a little bit too late. Like, I got hungry and I had to pee. I'm like, no, I should probably start this a little bit earlier when I'm more available, right? But you live and learn. But then again, there was a barrage of rockets that were falling down on a certain place that I'm not going to talk about until maybe the end. So we were talking about critical sustainability. Civic Notes. Personally, this is a project that I've worked on since 2016. And I think it was appropriate to not pursue it in the way that I have, because that's just how life works. But it is a app that is corresponding to local public meetings. So if you ever go on your website, your local government's website, like City of Hollywood, Town of Davie, New York City, whatever, they all have this technology called a Legistar, Legistar, and we're going to add the word social to the end of it, because what a Legistar does, and what a social Legistar will be, a Legistar basically is a meeting software, public records for agenda items that are voted upon, so you can see exactly what your town is planning or voted to approve per local governance standards, state government standards, federal government standards, if there is, with the separation of state and federal, if there is. That's coming from political science. Scientists, not science. And I designed the app as a social platform for civic engagement, simply because when I was in New York and I was starting this UX UI project, the idea came to me when I was like, I don't want to get on, was it the 3? Well, I would have to take the 2 and connect to, what's the green ones? 1, 2, 3. No, 1 and 2 is red. I'm talking about subways here. 1 and 2 is red, and green, whatever gets you in front of City Hall. I didn't want to go there, right? I didn't want to go to nearby Battery Park, not Battery Park, it's a little bit further. Wherever the exit for City Hall in New York is, I didn't want to take my, subway from Upper West Side to go down there. It's too hot. So I decided to build an app where you could go live stream and get, your updates. And the social part of it is that instead of signing up to do a citizen comment in person, you just record one and then have it played. Ideally, have it played live or wherever the case might be, but it's for people to inform you about what the issue is and who that person might be within your community, giving you that information. So we'll talk about that a little bit more extensively as its own show. Like, this orientation is part of critical sustainability. Civic Notes will have its own show. Deconomy, same thing. Wangar as well. Okay, so let me take a quick. This is a Funky Buddha Oktoberfest. 2019? Was this pre-COVID? This was definitely pre-COVID. Um, I've had it for a while. It's 42 to 56 ounces of water. It's not bad. Okay, so the economy. Economy, you're familiar, or at least you've heard the word, and it has many different actual interpretations and actual effects, empirical effects on the world. But economies are usually built for the wealth of a household. Anokonomias, the original Greek phrasing. And if you think about household management, which is what anokonomias is translated to, it if you think about managing a house, you gotta have your clothes washed, you gotta keep your bathrooms clean, food, electricity, um, a variety of different tasks, grass, insurance, so much that people on Product Hunt created apps just to do household management, um, reminders or notifications, or establishing healthy habits if it's not kind of ingrained, how you adapt over your life, right? So people have ways of solving these problems. If you're living in a modest house, then it could be very self-sustaining, uh, or an apartment. I've of course I've walked into some rank apartments, which yeah, it's mental health. What can you do? I mean, it's like you help, right? But beside that, the point of where we get the framing of economy stems from this notion, this organized notion, but really it kind of evolved, as we know, during the Industrial Revolution. That's an entire thing that we're going to cover in economy, but dialogue of interpreting capital, das Kapital, not, I'll say it in English and German, um, and trying to make those formulations and concepts kind of apply in different interpretations later down the line. So basically, it will be a understanding of economic systems historically. What I mean historically, probably from 1492 and on. Because if we do anything before 1492, aka pre-Columbus sailing the ocean blue, then we're going to be stuck in a lot of European, people uh, uh, closing off the land. No, this is actually before. Yeah, no, before closing off the land. 1492, and the closures were basically 1600s or so. So it's a precursor to that. But anything ancient, like ancient Greece, ancient Rome, ancient India, and those economies, it's not necessarily going to be like that. I don't think there's too much value in trying to discuss those eras when it comes to the future kind of transitional economic framework that the economy will demonstrate, more or less. Uh, the demonstration would, of course, be the insights, designs, and resources, like organizational research, that helps to administrate cooperatives, unions, federations, etc. It will definitely talk about workplace issues, as it is. Labor and welfare is a very large union slash workplace training. So we'll talk about that more with the economy. And Langar. Langar, if you don't know, it's not ceremonial, but it's a cultural artifact from India, and mostly from the Sikhi era, when Sikhism was beginning to form. Um, there was and of course, with regards to the Mughal Empire and Islam in general, it's the notion of just feeding people, right? To provide communal meals so that nobody within their the caliphate or the sultanate, let me correct myself right there, um, the sultanate or any land within India that follow this principle was to be able to feed people um, in large batches, right? So it's effectively my way of teaching you or whomever how to cook Indian food and or vegetarian food. Um, I personally omnivore, I guess you could say. I'm like that. You say non-veg. Yeah, non-veg. That's a great way of putting it. But there's plenty of actual quality vegetarian foods that come from the West Indies from my end. Um, but the whole concept of langar is not what is on the table. It's the fact that there is a table that you can come and join and eat. So if this was a physical place, like a library or a teaching hall, you would be fed. And the participants ideally would probably prepare it themselves uh, because food safety is something that I want to learn in regards to a restaurant scene. Because if you think about opening a space, you have to think about cleanliness, you have to think about the means to be able to cooperate with uh, food standards. So you're not looking at your reels on Instagram of food vendors in India. It's kind of gross. But yeah, we're not going to do that. We're going to make some quality dal and rice. Some. I got a whole menu. I got like 40 something recipes already written. So I got to get on taking photos of stuff. So let's jump into critical sustainability and talk about more of the course syllabus. We're half hour into this thing. I think we're doing well. Okay, so course syllabus, it's effectively an introduction to whomever the teacher is. This is, of course, could be you. Well, you'll see that in just a moment. You'll get a quick introduction to what the educational course is all about, the rhizome, which we'll come back to, but as you can see, it's about global initiatives and the combination of different research projects into a quote-unquote syllabi rhizome. And this is just to make concentrating on the sustainability aspect with the actual data and the key results that these organizations are striving for. So we'll come back to that in just a moment after we're finished with the course syllabus page and the walkthrough of the modules and projects, etc. Comparable academic fields, it says it here. You'll see it on each one of the explorations, so you get an idea of what interests you. You know, do you like philosophy? I hope you do. Do you like science? I hope you do too. Do you like education? I hope you do as well. So that's it's pretty the general spiel. But if you're going to talk about specifically the philosophy and philosophy of education, then this is the exploration for you. So we had the marquee of concepts that are covered. Don't try to read into the marquee too much. Each page, each lesson will have its own focus concept that will be more than enough to get a full dialogue of what the exploration is providing. Okay, so concepts are there, modules and projects, but before we do that, today I actually republished these cards. Originally, it was like a grid with a bunch of book recommendations as it's here, but I'm going to convert this into a table similar to the CSV file and the Airtable that you see, and just try to use as much of the real estate provided. By real estate provided, I mean less of these vertical lines, so you could get an idea. But each book here is recommended, but definitely not going to be the only books discussed. Each lesson will probably have that available to you. And as I said, I'm not showing you books right now, right? Because as a matter of principle, this is orientation. And what I mean by that is we're not going to go into a read of Pedagogy of the Press or anything else that uh, is facilitated in a module and then in a lesson. All right, so before we get into the modules and into the projects, just a quick view. You can open up if I do have a link set, it will appear here for the Wikipedia page to that article or to that book, sorry. And you have a meta resource, which implies, let's see if we go to so if you need to go and read this book and you see the word meta, it doesn't go to Facebook, but it goes to a link where it's publicly available. So you can see DUI, so scientific publishings as well. All right, so it's just a tool available for you to consume in case you need reference points for the future. Okay, so education course has modules, and in learning modules, we typically talk about groups of a very broad group of concepts, and in this case it's going to be, this module is just the orientation module, and here we are with the podcast and it's live streaming right now. This page will of course be more frequently updated simply because Podclass is new, but within each module, this group of concepts that we're going to talk about, each module will have its own associated pod class because it distills this information. Like I'm covering all of this stuff right here, so I could break up this live stream, find, a talking point, and then slice that video up and put it into a lesson, which is pretty neat. But before I jump into that, let's just take one quick navigation check. So every module that will be published will host lessons as well as pod classes. And the pod class is what we're doing now. I'll eventually make this page published and you can go and rewatch this stream. But in the meantime, there's lessons that are available in this module for you to consume. Now, here, the lesson details is just your overview of what this lesson will apply. I think maybe in the future, this section that you see available right here will be like if the content like down here isn't published, you'll still see it, right? You'll still get the lesson plan, which is based off of wow, it escapes me. What is this based off of? Remember, comprehend, analysis, evaluation, creation. It's one of those teaching frameworks for it's a pedagogical framework, and it's escaping the name. The name escapes me. I will probably not edit this and put a blurb over my face correcting myself. I'll just mention it in class later. You can navigate to the next lesson from here. You can see when it was last updated. These lesson activities is just the lecture review, but these activities can change in case there are interactive components like coding blocks or embedded what's the non-Flash Rive? I think that's a new standard formula. If you remember Adobe Flash, they had those little video games that you could play in the web browser. Incredibly insecure, but incredibly artistic, because Flash was like the digital canvas back in the day, but it had incredible security vulnerabilities that were exploited to the point where they deprecated it. So there's this new formula, new digital standard called Rive. Webflow just added it, and I got to see how well that performs in regards to embedding something within, a lesson where you can go and play around or interact with, right? So if, for example, with Civic Notes, if there's going to be an interactive prototype, there will be, the whole lesson will be for you to give me feedback. So I'll embed it in, the Figma file and allow that to be part of like the learning process of figuring out the app in this specific interaction, right? So if you're a UX UI designer, what does that mean? It means your prototypes for different flows can be in different lessons or even broken up and put into the rich text field here, because that way you can have multiple interaction points, A/B testing, for example, and embed a form below that and just give me your feedback. So it's a streamlined process. So as I mentioned, we're highlighting the related concepts that are going to be for the lesson and the book that might be interested in referencing or heavily referenced within the lesson. Your lesson plans are there. Your content is here. And as you can imagine, this is just like a blog post in a sense where it's one big field with a bunch of, text that you can go and read. And this explains a little bit more about the Sangha, about what we're doing in this exploration in more granular detail. And you can see we can navigate to the next ones as we go along. I hope you're still alive. So bad. He's old. What do you want? Okay, so let's go back to explorations, critical sustainability. And so we walked through a module. The upcoming modules for ontology will be released in maybe with the Podclass tomorrow. We'll see. I need to, of course, demonstrate or at least see how the website will look with multiple module cards, but it will be fine. So let's talk quickly about projects. And just like any documentation for a project, you got your background, you got your goals, objectives, and scope. Try to consolidate, that much information as possible. The real cool thing about it is with Webflow, the web designer that I built this application on, we can play around with external links, budgeting, compiling different information per project. There's a lot of nuance in seeing that, which we'll walk through when rebuilding the website. That should probably be the next stream before we get into Roy Baskar's work. Yeah, we'll do the back end next. When I mean the back end, there's a back end and front end. Front end is what you interact with on a website. Back end is the servers. Don't think of it like that. Back end, okay. So each project will have its overview, background, and so on. In this initial project, I really just wanted people to sign up with my Airtable account, but I forgot that I had a Notion, sign for Notion and copy and paste this Mama Jama. Yeah. Oops, no. Share this tab instead. Okay, yeah, you can see here. Ooh, why is it so zoomed out? That's why. All right, 100%. Anyway, this is pre-built, and you can literally copy it right up here. Sorry, this duplicate tab. And when you have a Notion account, it goes into your left little panel, your navigation, your left navigation. But it's basically it's basically it. It's the website in the Notion format with, as I mentioned, some onomatopoeias. I don't want to be your home ec stuff right here. Of course, this will probably be updated, the watch balance sheet and so on. I'll do that live instead. I don't feel like doing that now. Um, so what would be the ideal situation would be to um, have this updated more, but you can go to your Notion um, lesson and then copy and paste the live stream and or a video into it, and that way at least you'll be able to. What the hell did I actually fill out? Yeah, okay. So all these are just templates, right? So you can, yeah, here we go. This is what I mean by embedding. You can have this embedded. Oh, this is an old one. Note to self. I'm never going to go back into this video. Yeah, so I gave you all the instructions in here already. I should copy and paste that somewhere else. Anyway, so let's go back to share this tab instead. We'll close off the journal there. So once you have this created, you don't have to, but it makes it, as I just demonstrated, it makes it easy because the Airtable accounts from this activity, this H2, no, this H3, H4, yeah. So here it's a summary of what you're going to do each step of the way. And when you see this in the back end, you're going to go, okay, that's pretty robust way of how Webflow enables all this to be produced. Like it's a library app, it's a project management app, it's a this app, it's X, the everything app, right? No, don't do that. So with the journal and in this project, you can read it independently instead of hearing me ramble, but effectively you copy and paste all of these Airtable links, and it will allow you to copy it and put it into your, let's do the media library as an example. It will copy it and put it into your Airtable workstation. I believe that's the language they use for their user management, their content management for users. And you can see here, you can copy the base, right? So you just use this template where it has all the meta resources. Oh, wow, I forgot I kept this in here. Anyway, this is basically a preview of the economy program process that we'll go over. Countries, references from that country, their books. You could go in and add as much as you want. Oh, when I say as much as you want, as much as you're paying for. So if you're on a free plan, you're limited to, I think, 1,200 records. By records, there's like a couple hundred already, I believe, or maybe some of this is pre-populated. Maybe there's very little. But anyway, you have a template here that you can peruse, you can copy, and then you can embed it into your Notion. And we'll do a whole walkthrough of how to do that. But I think, oh yeah, look at this. I need to make this a light box. But it's in an RTF, so I don't know how to do that. I probably need to update it in there. You'll learn Webflow with me. So where am I in my... we'll go to the donate page last. Okay. Yeah, we'll go back to the curriculum. So you saw how to do a project, right? A few projects, it's there. If you want to copy my Notion stuff, you want to copy my Airtables and start your own little journaling process, I can show you best use cases, but the use cases will probably be, extrapolated in Civic Notes, or there's a product planner, so I gotta mention that later. But a good use case, as it is October 1st, 2024, I'm gonna remember. If you want to start a war journal, or an armed conflict journal, that would be an ideal setup to have. But I do have a couple bases that I will demonstrate, but won't make it immediately available. I just want to do a walkthrough of the Airtables of proper journalism for events like the ongoing genocide in Gaza, the ongoing invasion of Lebanon, the ongoing decimatation of Yemen, the genocide in, let's open up a map and just see where the genocide is. Sudan, Congo, Myanmar, where else? Uh, 2 minutes. It's just 2020. It's October 1st, 2024. And Iran has done something, right? So the whole point of saying that is you could create a journal, put your library in it, put your curriculum planner in it, put your work systems template in it, put your product planner in it, put your war journal Airtable that will come down the line in it. And you will definitely see the conflict, or at least conflicts in general, with a little bit more nuance, I think. Okay, so I talked a lot into courses, library, we got concepts and projects. So let's go into the rhizomes real quick. In case it's not apparent, a rhizome, as you can imagine, coral reefs, which are somewhat rhizomatic. They're animals, they merge onto each other. A reef itself, or the plant itself, is not what I'm referring to. I'm talking about the group of them. What do you call that? What are a bunch of coral reefs? Coral reefers? Or ginger. Ginger. I'm not going to put ginger as a coral. I mean, these are bleaching, so it's more appropriate. So rhizomatic learning. Rhizomes from Deleuze and Guattari are effectively unconnected issues or concepts or notions that have similarity, but they're completely independent of each other. And in this case, to make that a little bit more clear, if we're talking about sustainability, we're talking about the research method that I mentioned before, UN Sustainable Development Goals. I threw in Life Course, which is the Life Course Cube, which is a graphic that I brought up in the past, and it's related to the Tesseract. Green New Deal, human rights according to the UN, and an ongoing results monitor. So effectively, the rhizome is the working metrics behind sustainability. So we have let's click research circles, and we just go to this section. In engagement with our research circles, you have these 4 breakdowns: business org, civ society, gov institutions, research-based institutions, and we kind of pull from what we're targeting in the exploration. So in this case, nonprofits or social enterprises. I can't remember what I put for business organizations. But right, we're engaging in one one specific circle. I believe it's universities and colleges for this one. Civic notes is municipal and provincial, cooperatives and state runs for the economy, and individuals or maybe community-based and faith organizations for Langar. The knowledge circles, this is all part of Paul James' research. And this, I believe, was part of the UN reports that they use through the Circles of Sustainability projects in different cities, where they combined, different internal metrics that scored, if how well press freedom is in one place. It might have a 7 rating or a 1 rating, right? So it's its own metrics and own approach with their research, but I'm taking that research and teaching people through, how they categorize things. So the university as its own topic, which is what this exploration is focusing on, local governments, etc. So those are just different ways of approaching the cohorts for sustainability. Now, I just found my own screw up. Yup. Okay. Life Course Cube. I should probably link to this, but it's citing the source directly. Uh, Let me actually pull up a better resource. And who better of a resource to show you than... Where's my Life Course Cube? Here we go. Oh, hey, what happened? I'm no longer streaming? Share screen. Ontology. Here we go. Booyakasha. Who's here? Anyone here? No one. Okay, so Life Course Cube, very easy to discuss it real quick through this way. You know what a 3D object is. I'm not going to patronize you on that. Just see the levels, individual action, super individual action across time. So what does that mean? Like actions develop, right? And something could mature. So the time axis is there to flesh out the 3 dimensions, and the life domain axis, as we see it, evolves. This domain is something that we're going to talk about a little bit more in nuance in covering universities, especially the last chapter, in the finance model, where I extrapolate on that a little bit more. So that just as a reskin of the theory, the Life Course Cube, as with a critical lens over it. And we're not going to talk about that until weeks from now. So if we go back to this tab in the Life Course Cube, the methodology is outlined to show you, that life axis, the Y, the stages. This is internal to, let's say, if you're a teacher, you need to know, or if you're a learner and you need to know what part of this exploration is targeting. In this case, it's mostly going to be adulthood. However, if you're a child educator, there's obviously the stages that are there for you to focus on. Transition for K through 12, or maybe 6 to 12, I don't know. School age, up to 4, 6, whatever, early childhood, toddlers, prenatal infancy. Yeah, you get the picture. Domains. Now, this is something that's really interesting about the Life Course Cube. It does the same approach that a lot of social research tries to, embody what, cultural aspects of your life might be interpreted as. So, social spirituality, safety and security. It's a very similar mindset to how the circles are structured. So there are parallels to these domains and the domains of circles of sustainability and the domains of the Life Course Cube. It is not what I mentioned before, the 1, 2, 3 in the evolution, but these are the domains that they utilize for day-to-day living and just an assimilation of life experience, right? Sustainable development goals. So why do these exist in the first place? Has anyone, or have you, thought about that? They exist because capitalism. That's literally it. I don't even, I'm in the other screen, so ignore me. Rhizome Life Course. There we go. Okay, so I fixed that one issue. On this page. It's not going to be published right now. And then on the home page, there was that, and that's weird. Okay, so this SDGs exist to guilt trip the majority of the world into becoming more complicit in the waste that capitalism produces. That's it. It's nice to have no property. Redistribute the wealth. Why is there hunger? Why does Dunkin' Donuts in every, place in the world or in America just dumps out their food? Because you can't sell it. So each of these SDGs are related to an exploration. All of it, as you saw, rhizomes, very similar things, interdependent of each other, right? So they have a lot of overlap. Some of them are just completely left field, and others are just like not. Uh, they're not exactly targeting sustainability, but they're just general factors into program management, which we'll talk about in a moment. You can go into each one of these SDGs and get a readout of the details of what is in each one of them, or you can go to the official website where this is okay, where you can get the latest news on that if you'd like. Green New Deal. All the goals are kind of listed out here, A through E, the motivations, right? So these are tabs that you can go through, the projects, and all of this gets reincorporated into one syllabus. Just going to repeat this over and over again. I might remove the human rights aspect to the syllabi just because I don't find it to be as directly, related. And this is what I meant by they're just kind of metrics, right? And why are they posted in full? In case anyone wants to read it. And if people who are of the demonic nature want to deny it, then that's like a little cross. Not a cross. Who cares? Public sustainability. So, as I mentioned before, these are kind of the data sets and metrics that are going to be relayed in projects, things that we're going to be building, things we're going to be talking about. With Civic Notes, this is kind of where it originally came from, a open registry or open data project that I saw on Airtable Universe, primarily copied those records over here, and it highlights corruption or anti-corruption, as you can see in this top section, contractors, like imagine transactions in an agenda just appearing on your screen, for example. What is a good example? What's a relevant example? The Miami Stadium, Inter Miami Stadium. Let's use that. So if you're like a citizen of Biscayne Bay area, or is that North Miami Beach? I can't remember. It's North Miami Beach. You're not going to those meetings. You're not seeing or understanding the connections between lobbyists, contractors, officials, so all of that information can be contextualized. So for example, the city of Miami or the county of Miami, because MDC, I think, has to approve of these, large infrastructure projects. So MDC will have a public meeting. And in that public meeting will be one agenda item that talks about, let's say, giving the thumbs up to David Beckham and crew to go and knock down a park and build a soccer stadium at. So within those records, you have your selection of companies, lobbyists, financial details regarding the proposed agenda item. You could evolve the app, if you think about it, to engender a lot of the a lot of the public data sets that are normally dialogued but never really seen. So imagine just opening up a few details, you see all the people connecting, right? And then you could voice out against it. But in reality, Civic notes could be um, not just for public meetings, such as, oops, keep hitting this, public meetings. It can be for internal meetings, right? Why not? So if you're a cooperative and you want voting power, you need an app that has, the internal organization and the fluidity behind these transactions, seeing the transactions, and voicing your concern. And if you're in a union or ideally in a direct democracy, you could vote on it yourself. Easy as sipping water. So this is the rhizomes, Deleuze and Guattari, bunch of stuff interconnecting, interlaces with the exploration syllabus, and you can read all the details behind that on this page. I'm going to touch the concepts real quick. It's just a list. It's a printout of what you see across the explorations, but eventually I'm going to have an alphabetical filter to ideally filter everything that is being covered in the lessons. This is just an initial list. So as the lessons begin to publish, this list will probably adjust accordingly. And the concepts are just simply there to say, for SEO. So if you don't, search engine optimization. So if you have a bunch of stuff listed on a website and then you target traffic to that, it improves over time. People visiting because they want to learn more about citizens assembly. So if you're searching that, and let's say, for example, you have multiple SEO churning features here, you can, I don't know, you can get this page higher on Google, like it really matters, because that shit's already highly profit oriented, so you got to pay to get there. All right, so that's me. Is it? I guess. This is what I mentioned by the teachers program. It's basically doing a walkthrough of this. And why is that there? Of this current, training process that we're going through, this current, flow that we're going to go through. More on that in the next stream, because I think when we do the back end, we're doing the front end today. I just made that up earlier. So when we do the back end, you'll see, exactly how the technology works, which is half the battle. If you understand how the technology works behind a website, you can pretty much facilitate how the experience will be expected from a user's endpoint. Okay, so I taught, I had my notes on my iPad a lot. We're over an hour. And I do want to do a quick look over to see any viewers. No, that's okay. So if there was chat, I would have it in my super peer appearing here. What does it look like from my side? My profile is what? Oh, that's neat. That's really neat. Oh. Okay, so there's a 10 to 15 second. Interesting. I like this. I prefer this more than a Twitch, to be honest, because you can join super peer, watch live stream. No, I don't want to do that. But that's because I'm logged in. Okay. Let's close here. Let's go back to streaming. Hi. I'm not though. Stream. Stream. Okay, so we were we talked very briefly about the actual front, the website here. This is really not a this is weird. Why does it do that despite the fact everything is top loaded, right? So there shouldn't be a reason why, unless that, because I have an additional tab below my URL bar, right? And I don't know if it's just pushing all of the display down, but it shouldn't do. It should just be this and cut off, right? Oh well. So we covered the website, we covered the curriculum webpage. You saw the courses. We walked through that, the module. We're doing this now. I think after I'll put a button here so you can rewatch the stream once it concludes. View sessions, or view lesson, sorry. You got a walkthrough of what it looks like, and my ramblings over it. The real bread and butter of the website so far, to me personally, is the curation. Why personally? Because right now this is the first content that we're putting out there on this website. So this has a lot of value just by, reviewing its subject matter on a timeline, as well as just getting inspired of what possible. Oh, here's the El Parenti version of video. I forgot it. It's one of the first videos I went to go and save just because this video is so iconic. Hold on, you could look. Okay, let's do this. Let me go on YouTube and try something with you guys. By you guys, I mean just a couple of you. So, play a YouTube video. You're currently streaming, yeah. Wear headphones or please look.
You could look at any existing socialist country. If you don't want to call them socialist, call them whatever you want. Post-capitalist.
All right. The fact that this, I'm demonstrating super not Parenti. Parenti, I have a lot to say. Everyone is a resource, right? Well, actually, the general statement, everyone is right twice a day, including the people that we dislike. So it just keeps you grounded. There's no, this is commentary on left academia and, their heroes that they, anyway, point is Parenti is divisive for a very small amount of people, but his academic work, I don't think, can be undermined, simply because they are great reference points, and there are going to be things that you disagree with. Lo and behold, there's probably someone else that, they basically have their own interpretation of what he covered, and that's what politics is all about. Go and watch a Norman Finkelstein interview since October 7th, right? You could see the exhaustion on his face, and that's pretty much what I'm getting at. It's like, it really doesn't matter from an academic perspective. This isn't academia we're talking about. This isn't academics. I mean, we talk about it in the sense of framing academic framework, but this is design work in reality. We take what we know from academia, interpret it, and implement it in our own way. Yellow Parenti is a great video. I think, if you do have time, it stop playing. Yeah, it's a great video. I mean, it gets people motivated. The Yellow Parenti video is about the Cuban Revolution. So if you're a worm, then it's probably going to trigger you. But if you want to learn about the Cuban Revolution, it's a nice video to watch. Okay, let's go back and wrap up so I can go get some food. Share screen, organization governance. Yeah, let's go to the donate page so we can wrap this bad boy up. This podcast is viewer funded. If you would like to contribute, please go to solarpunksanga.com/donate. While you're here, you can watch our pretty video. that describes all of our work, the insights, designs, and resources that will be provided through educational courses, our Patreon. Let's go and view it. Share this tab. You can sign up, become a member. I'm posting there pretty regularly. It's pretty much the first place. No, don't go into the back end. Anyway, you there's a Patreon. You can go and sign up. And while you are there, everything, like new updates to the website, it's the first place. It's the feed, right? It's the primary feed. So that is where I will, post updates, post live stream announcements. So when I do this, you'll be aware. And yeah, you can donate there or sign up and get updates there. Recurring payments, cancel anytime. You can go and donate to me directly on PayPal. Let's go and look. Share this tab instead. So when you go, you can Venmo, PayPal, whatever. And this is just to me directly. That would help. Well, of course it helps. Why not? Okay, so, but before we leave, I'm going to give you another reason to donate, and that is, yeah, here we are. In regards to our public roadmaps. So this website, of course, will go under regular cosmetic, I guess you could say, changes to the UI, to the UX, just to improve as more content is added, because it was really launched as an MVP, minimal viable product. And in that viability, we had to plan for excluding certain things because of how Webflow limits a free website. Because I basically built it for free, launched it, and then added a little bit more features along the way because, well, it's easier to do that in Webflow, test everything out in a staging environment, and make sure everything goes smoothly to plan, right? So this roadmap, this embed of a ClickUp. If you haven't used ClickUp before, it's a great project management software. I use it for this project program, Solarpunk Sangha, but there's plenty of uses for it in just personal uses. But it's such a advanced piece of software where I kind of don't recommend it. The native iOS reminders and calendar system from 18 and on, I believe, are just more than sufficient for individual use. But if you have, something you want to isolate and make complex, Kanbans out of, then this is the tool for you. Let's see. So this roadmap gives you an idea to major vectors of the website, which will, over time be improved, implemented, announced on Patreon, social media, etc. And this one will probably be consolidated because at some point it's like these two overlap, and I might do that after the stream. Nah, I'll do it later. But the point is that there are multiple roadmaps embedded to give this one is top level idea of the website experience, and this is more of the services that are offered, such as the library, such as the explorations, journals, etc. Okay, so view details, that goes there, that goes there. You can contact me. Oh, that's right, because I don't want. Yeah. Go to the footer, go to the contact button. Follow us on social medias. the YouTubes, the Instagrams, the TikToks, the Twitters, the Telegrams. Um, as a workflow for you, and more or less for me to say out loud, I go to Patreon first, Telegram, and depending on the material, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok are kind of reserved for videos. But I am posting or will be posting on YouTube just because it's going to be the primary channel where this is being watched on. Plans for Twitch? Yeah, maybe. Let me close out here. Let me stop streaming. No, stop sharing. Super Bear has a few upcoming, what do you call it? They have a few upcoming features regarding Twitch, so I will wait to do that. I already got the account created. I just don't want to do multi-stream because it's not capable on one encoder, which is the one I'm using right now. But further down the line, it will be available. And this is just a dry run to live streaming, talking about what I built, etc., etc. So, an hour and a half. It's not bad. Yeah. If you watch this later down the line, thank you for watching. If you want to watch, I'm going to publish it the day of on my personal and Instagram. So, if you want to hop on, you can hop on. I gotta figure out the workflow schedule for that, or the workflow for streaming for that. But just go on, stream, cut up into shorts, and then move on. This is kind of a unstructured one, so I'm not gonna do it for this one. It's gonna be unlisted or made public. I'll see. We'll see. This is more or less for the future notes, not civic notes. But anyway, long day. Today is October 1st. 2024, and there are hypersonic missiles that were being dropped somewhere in the world. Oh well, we'll see. Peace in the Middle East, we'll see. All right. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. Please donate. I'll probably hop on earlier tomorrow so we can talk a little bit more about backend, and we'll see. We'll go from there. If you enjoyed this, let me know. Give me feedback. Like, subscribe, share, do all those things that normal YouTubers ask you to do. And peace. Stop the stream. Stop? Yeah. Yes, please.